Hello! I don't normally make voice acting videos because if you make a video about voice acting, then you're presenting yourself as like an authority on voice acting, and I don't need that in my life right now. But there has been a discussion on Twitter lately about multiple takes, especially when putting in auditions. And I realized that's one of those things that doesn't really get discussed. You kind of learn it through osmosis after you've been doing it for a while. And I happened to be in my booth already this morning for some things. The roofers behind me stopped roofing for a while. Hope we get that fixed soon. And hey, I like to engage in a little bit of pedagogy sometimes. So, what do we mean when we say things like multiple takes? I'm going off mic a little bit. We're just going to have to deal with that. It's fine. The idea when submitting multiple takes for an audition is to show a broader range of what you're capable of. The breadth of your acting, your voice, your range, all that kind of good stuff. Easy ways to do this would be just to do different voices. Maybe you do a non-accented take. Well, then you also do an accented take. And that's a very Anglophonically centric demonstration of accented versus non-accented, but you know what I mean. Maybe you do this voice, but you also do this voice for the same character because they would both work. That can be a really great way of showing your physical vocal range if that's what's required for the project. It's been my experience, though, however, that lots of times if you're going to do multiple takes, you want to make sure that you have a sort of breadth of your performative ability in there as well, or preferring that. And what I mean by the breadth of your performance is like how you can hit different emotional notes. Some people don't play sad well. They just don't. Some people are really great at the loud, screamy, yelly parts, but they cannot pull it back. So you want to show that you can do that, in theory. If you're doing multiple takes, if you're doing it anyway, show that you can do those things. Easiest way to do this from like a line-by-line basis is to apply different verbs for the different takes you're going to do. Applying verbs to a line is a script analysis technique where you take a line, you say, oh, for this line, I'm going to be doing this. You're not being sad, you're not being angry, you're not being sad. You're performing an action. And you go through and you find places where different verbs work for different lines, and you break down monologues, all that kind of good stuff. I could go into more explanation about it, but it's a really great like acting 101 technique. You can find information about it online. Just Google away. You will figure it out. I trust you. So let's say we're given a side where you're the character and your significant other has betrayed you in some way, shape, or form. And so the side they're like, oh, the description you're given is they're mad and betrayed. And the line is, how could you do this to me? Okay, so mad and betrayed, those are great words. We're looking for verbs though. So let's say we're getting ready to perform the line, and our verb we're going to pick is first accuse. Okay, so we're going to accuse. How could you do this to me? Okay, now we're going to guilt. We're going to guilt the person. How could you do this to me? Now we're going to question. How could you do this to me? Now we're going to plead. How could you do this to me? And I'm chewing the scenery just a little bit. But even just changing this one singular action that we're focusing on changes the texture of the line. And you can obviously apply more than one verb to it. Let's say the full line is, how could you do this to me? I loved you. You could do two verbs. You could do, how could you do this to me? It could be condemning. It's you're condemning them. And I loved you could have been you're shaming them. So it could be, how could you do this to me? I loved you. It's a little weird, but you could play with it. You could, change up verbs and see how things sound. So that's a really easy way to start providing multiple takes. Pick a different verb. Like, there's a lot more malleability than you might think there is in any given line, even when given by a director. What I like to do, if I'm even going to bother doing multiple takes, which I like to do full-on characterization shifts. In that, I look at a character and I think, okay, what are 2 ways I could approach this character that would be equally viable within the context of the casting call? This lets me kind of combine different verbs and different vocal qualities to kind of like really flex on them a little bit. So we're going to use, there's a current casting call going on right now. It's for the Zelda Universe Breath of the Wild full dub. I picked this one because I'm not going to be auditioning for this project, so this wouldn't be weird. But the character of Zelda and how they're describing her is not something I book a lot of, but it is definitely within my wheelhouse. It is one of the archetypes I do go out for. If you're not familiar with the idea of archetypes or your wheelhouse or your repertoire, that's something, again, I could explain, but like, should pay a vocal coach for that because they're going to do a better job at it than I would. Real talk. So this is how they describe Zelda. Medium to high, young adult, 16 to 17 years of age. Description. Voice-wise, think of a young adult princess in royalty, speaking with a clear and proper tone, can be curious, excitable at times. No accent required, blah, 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 blah. So there are two ways I would approach this princess character, given this without any preconceived notions of Zelda or whatever. I'm probably going to raise her up just a little bit, not too much, the very top of my normal speaking cadence, because the estrogen puberty, so to speak, you really only drop about half an octave vocally, and since she's 16 or 17, she's already going to be toward the end of that. Her normal, very close to her adult woman voice. And she's also a very mature teenager, so I may even drop her just a scooch, like right around here. I'd probably sit her right around here. Okay, yeah, this feels about right. And I can maintain this, so I would pick this. That's another thing about voice acting. You always want to pick voices you can maintain. And then, because she's a princess and she's very proper and very prestigious, I'm going to tighten up her diction. I'm going to give her very sharp sounds. Hopefully my sibilance doesn't come through. Doesn't come through like that. Hopefully my sibilance doesn't come through. She's going to talk very precisely, very quickly, very sharp. But here's where it's going to change up a little bit. I have 2 ways I can approach her personality-wise. She can be a very, I'm going to do this and you're going to like it. I'm going to punch you in the face and you're going to thank me for it because I'm Princess Zelda. Or we could pull her back a little bit and she's a little more hesitant. She kind of believes in herself, but she's not really sure. And that comes with both a texture change and a little breathierness that I may or may not get rid of. And it also comes with a bit of a tonality change. She moves through the words a little bit differently than the punchier Zelda, who will punch you in the face, and for some reason is kind of coming through like a 1950s radio announcer. If this were a real audition, I would work through that a little bit more to make sure I wasn't just putting on a weird accent for no reason. So, let's look at this last line in the audition sides. It's determined. I'm not a child anymore. I may not be much use in the battlefield, but there must be something I can do to help. We've got a really great adjective, determined, but we want verbs. So, for my punchier, I'm going to punch you in the face and I'm going to step on you, Zelda. That's a weird territory to go into. I'm going to pick the verb, command. She is commanding father or whoever she's talking to do this thing. They better do it. I'm commanding it. So, let's see. I'm not a child anymore. I may not be much use on the battlefield, but there must be something I can do to help. Cool. I'd probably run that a couple of times and tweak some things, change some intonation, whatever. But now I'm going to shift into a little more of a hesitant Zelda. Now this character is slightly different. She's still a princess. She's still a warrior. But she's a little more unsure of herself, which I think matches the feel of the description and where she's going with it. Because if you see, she loses the ability. She doesn't have the ability to unlock her powers. So I'm playing more into that idea. I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm supposed to, but oh gosh, golly gee. So for this Zelda, I'm going to pick a different verb. I'm going to pick the verb convince. Who is she convincing? She's convincing the person she's talking to. She's also convincing herself. So, I'm not a child anymore. I may not be much use on the battlefield, but there must be something I can do. Cool. I'm gonna roll them back to back. I haven't even heard them back to back, so I'm not really sure. And you can hopefully hear a difference in the two takes. I'm not a child anymore. I may not be much use on the battlefield, but there must be something I can do to help. I'm not a child anymore. I may not be much use on the battlefield, but there must be something I can do. So it's going to be subtle, but they are just two different distinct takes of a character. Then I could also get creative. I could add a little bit of a RP accent onto the more quiet one if I really wanted to really kind of separate them out, but I wouldn't necessarily have to. But that's the ways that you can approach multiple takes. You can do different voices, you can do different verbs, or you can do two different characterizations, which are a combination of voice and verb. But the idea is to show what you can do. So if the difference in between your takes is, how dare you, versus, how dare you, those aren't quite different enough. They're just emphasizing different words. So the idea when you're doing multiple takes, and I'm not perfect, I've screwed this up before, is to really show what you can do and not waste the casting director's time. They'll be like, why did I listen to this twice? You gave me the same line twice. I don't understand. So I hope this was informative. If there's anything that I've said that was very confusing, which is entirely possible, comment below or ping me on Twitter and I will try to clarify the best I can, keeping in mind, again, I'm not an authority on voice acting. I'm just a gal with annoyment in a booth and some anime credits. So have a great day. Get out there and audition.